Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me? Kinda. Mic check, please. Thank you, that's better. Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond. My name is Beth Mixovic, and it is my honor to serve on your board of directors. For those of us who are new to us, and members and friends who are tuning in from near and far, welcome to everybody. We are so grateful to be able to connect with you. We are a community of many faith journeys and beliefs committed to being deliberately diverse and fully inclusive. We want you to know that whoever you are welcome here. Our church was begun in 1833 as a liberal Christian community. We now are a community of many faith journeys and beliefs united in a single covenant of care. Through the years, we have struggled and often succeeded in the mission to seek personal wisdom, build beloved community, and serve the purpose of justice in the Richmond area. If you are a visitor here today or online, we are so glad you found us. We welcome you and thank you for spending some time with us, and we hope you will return again soon. This was something I put in this welcome because every service is a little different here, so don't just come once. Come and get to know us. Everything will be different every time. Ministers are unique. Our music is ever changing. We're lucky to have the singers here today. And the best way to discover who we are is to spend time with us over several Sundays. We encourage everyone to tune into Sunday morning services 5 to 10 minutes early. It's a great way to catch up on things prevalent to the church and catch the rolling announcements. So I now invite you to silence your cell phones.
Good morning. It's so good to see all these beautiful faces today on this nice, beautiful fall day, and your presence make the day even more special. I am the Reverend Sherman Z. Logan, Jr. I am one of your unique ministers here at First UU, and I also have the privilege of serving this congregation as the acting senior minister. I'd like to welcome all of you who are here with us in person, those who are listening to us remotely, to our worship service this morning. This is indeed a very wonderful day. So joining me this morning as our worship associate is Kenya Gibson. And I'd like to provide an opportunity for those of you who are visiting with us this morning to tell us hello, who you are, where you're from. And if you are comfortable, raise your hand, and Jamie, the minister of the mic, will run to you. And she would literally run to you.
Hi, I'm Kate Van Cleef. This is Attica Spaldwin. We moved here in June from Texas. I've been in and around UU, in and out, as UUs tend to be, for about 20 years. Served a few years as director of religious education at the teeniest, tiniest Unitarian congregation in Houston. And I'm really happy to be back here.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Sophia, and this is my friend Sinclair. I grew up in Berryville, Virginia, and
I always went to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Shenandoah Valley.
Okay.
So I'm very excited to be here.
Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Hi, I'm Jill. I guess my family's from Florida and Georgia, and I've been in Richmond now for the past year and a half, doing a master's program here, and yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Welcome. Right.
Hold it real close.
I'm Gina Werfel. I'm actually a member here, but I brought my friend Debbie Diaz-Granados with me today, and this is actually her first time ever being at a UU service.
Wow.
So everybody welcome her.
Welcome, Debbie. Okay. I don't see anyone else, Jamie. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, and we're so glad that you're here with us this morning. So now, let's greet your neighbors and welcome the visitors. Please remain standing. Please remain standing and let us sing our opening hymn, 357, Bright and Morning Stars.
So you're always welcome to grab one. Usually we have them in the chair. We have them available for you before we sing, so it kind of helps, to be able to read the music. So anyway.
Thank you,
sorry about
Dave.
that.
Enter, rejoice, and come in this sacred place. As we gather on this day, each of us brings something to worship. We bring with us the event of the week in the world and in our lives. We bring our burdens that are weighing heavy on our spirits. We bring prayers of hope and prayers of despair. We bring our voices and offering and our questions. We bring our faith, torn or whole as it might be. We bring all of this together to the beloved community. Come, let us worship together.
The chalice reading is by today called Nurture This Precious Light by Naomi King. As we nurture this precious light together, we become a light of hope, turning isolation into community, anguish into peace, sorrow into joy. As we do, our faith burns a steady flame of innovation, banishing illusion, creating a new and renewing way together. Together, we turn this world from bleak to light. Today's reading is called Election Day by Gary Kowalski, adapted. It is a Sunday before the election as I write these lines, and whatever the outcome, I will be glad when it's over. Some will be elated by the results, and others will feel dejected, but regardless of who wins or loses, our world will still be broken and suffering from ills that government is powerless to cure. Our lives will still be chaotic and in need of tranquility. Grief and loss will continue to haunt us. We will still face the challenge of finding meaning and a faith that can sustain us through tough times. Campaigning in America often carries messianic overtones, and politicians collude in the drama by puffing their biographies to mythic proportions. They make big promises, but no new administration can deliver friendship, peace of mind, personal integrity, or a sense of self-worth. Finding the qualities that can make life worth living, building them into our daily lives, and passing them along to our children will continue to be our personal responsibility, regardless of who controls Town Hall, Congress, the State House, or the White House. Voting is important, but there are many other ways in which we can exercise power in our own lives and influence the world for the better. Self-government, after all, begins at home, with how I treat my neighbor, relate to my family, care for my community, and how I work and play. Hope for the future depends less on who gets elected than our ability to exercise our own power for good. Thank you.
As we prepare for this time of meditation, prayer, and reflection, let us remember a member of our community, Charlie Clifton, who passed away on yesterday. Let us hold his wife, Jean, and their family in our hearts in life and love. Now let us prepare for this centering moment. This is time to center yourself into that still deep point deep within you that is often overlooked. a time to restore our inner resources so we may be resilient to the many demands of our increasingly busy and often unbalanced lives. So sit still in your seats, close your eyes as you are comfortable, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And let us enter into a time of silent meditation. A Prayer for America by Tamara Leback. Spirit of life, ever adapting and renewing, God of many names, you have endowed us with inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let us remember this day that in this country there's no national religion, there's no superior race, there's no preferable gender or orientation. We gather holding a common value, that the glory of this country rests first and foremost in its diversity. Out of many ideals, out of many beliefs, out of many forces, out of many passion, out of many experiences, we are one. Help us, O God, to never forget that we need not to be alike, to live and love alike. We ask for forgiveness of this day for our national and individual transgressions. When we have chosen inaction or silence in the face of injustice and abuse of power, and our failure to claim our own. We ask for forgiveness for when we have not known our neighbor, fed our hungry, or equipped our future generation with knowledge and love. We ask for a blessing on this nation according to our own faith and forms, and pledge our voice in support of the moving closer and closer to freedom. These are the prayers of our hearts, and we pray now in silence. In the name of those who have come before us and those who are yet to be, in the name of all the helpers of humankind, may this be so. Amen. Ashe.
This song is called Dream Keepers the name of the composer is Rollo A. Dilworth, and the text is by Langston Hughes. The words to the text are, bring me all of your dreams, you dreamers, dream keepers, you dreamers. Bring me all of your heart melodies that I may wrap them in a blue cloud cloth, away from the too rough fingers of the world.
This month's Share the Plate recipient is John B. Carey Elementary School. My name is Gina Werfel, and I am a parent and PTA board member at John B. Carey. I've also been a member of First UU for the last 6 years. With me today is Debbie Diaz-Granados. She is our PTA president. Carey Elementary serves the Carillon neighborhood along with Carytown, City Stadium, Bird Park, the Museum District, and part of Randolph. John B. Carey is a Title I school, which means that a majority of students qualify for free or reduced price lunch. In 2022, John B. Carey was awarded a Green Ribbon School designation by the U.S. Department of Education. This award recognizes practices of environmental sustainability and the incorporation of the environment and nature into student learning. Students at Carey are also taught useful life skills and compassion for others through the community garden. The garden grows fresh vegetables. Produce grown in the garden is given to feed more food banks. Students work in the garden during the year to support their science curriculums, and they use this experience to learn not only how to grow their own food, but also how to share their bounty with others. John B. Carey also has an official designation as a No Child Left Inside Eco Campus, which they got in 2021. This recognizes outdoor class for their outdoor classrooms and learning areas. The school administration has been partnering with Virginia legislators to advocate for eco-campus funding and environmental education for all schools throughout Virginia. John B. Carey's environmental initiatives align with UU Principle number 7, which is respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part, via its focus on sustainability and caring for others and the earth. Donations from Share the Plate this month would support student programming, including expanding and increasing the EcoCampus initiative and our sustainability practices. We appreciate your help and support.
Okay. Please look on this projection screen to see ways that you can give, or you can place your money in the collection basket, and offering will now be received and most graciously received. Our second reading for the morning, Our Common Destiny by David O. Rankin. First, I must begin with my own creation. I must celebrate the miracle of evolution that results in living entirely in an entity named David. I must assist in unfolding of the process of deciding who I am by fashioning my own identity, creating myself each day. I must listen to the terrors, the desires, the impulses that clash in the depths of my soul. I must know myself, or I'll be made and used by others. Second, I must learn to affirm my neighbors. I must respect others, not for their function, but for their being. I must put others at the center of my attention, to treat them as the ends and to recognize our common destiny. I must never use people to win glory or to measure the ego or to escape from responsibility. I must listen to their words, their thoughts, their coded messages. Finally, I must value actions more than intention. I must feel, think, judge, decide, and then risk everything in acts of gratuitous freedom. I must battle the walls of loneliness. I must leap the barriers of communication. I must tear down the fences of anonymity. I must destroy the obstacles of life to liberty. Not in my mind as a wishful dream, but in my acts as a daily reality. Can we live as one, at one within ourselves, at one with another, at one with people who sees as being different to ourselves? Can we live at one with all of life? Well, I believe it is possible. It begins within our own hearts and souls in the way that we must conduct our lives. It will not be easy, though, as the forces of division are all around us and indeed within us. Therefore, it must begin with our own hearts and souls and the way we live our own life. It begins by learning to revere life as the most precious God-given gift there is, that all are made in that one image. If we do this, we'll surely no longer be able to create divisions within ourselves, one another, and all life. Election day is Tuesday, and if you believe the pundits, the politicians, and the pollsters, this would be the most consequential election of our lifetime. Our democracy is at stake. A majority of our citizens feel that this country is headed in the wrong direction. And as a nation, we are divided as we've ever been. We are pitted against each other, and there's predominance of us versus them mentality. And you know, on my way into the church this morning, I saw plenty of examples of that in my neighborhood. There are some folks who hadn't forgotten that the 2020 elections are over, and you might call them election deniers. Matter of fact, I have a neighbor across the street that's an election denier, but anyway. There are some houses in the neighborhood that have banners and signs and a sign in their front yard to let us how they really feel about our current President Biden, and not in a flattering way. I saw a Let's Go Brandon sign on the way here this morning. But there's still some in my neighborhood who's displaying banners from the 2012 election supporting President Obama. So I tend to stay away from political conversation with my neighbors because I know that we are on opposite ends of the spectrum, and the conversation could easily evolve into us versus them. And I want to remain neighborly since I've lived there for the past 17 years. I don't want to be kicked out the neighborhood. But you know, these sentiments are not new and didn't start a few years ago. These sentiment has been prevalent in society since the dawn of civilization. And these United States have been divided ever since its inception almost 3 centuries ago. And we also must acknowledge that our visions extend far beyond political affiliation to include religion, race, gender, education, ethnicity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, and urban versus rural. And it seems like everywhere we turn, we the people are split into binary groups, good versus bad, conservative versus progressive, vaxxers versus anti-vaxxers, tolerance versus intolerance, wokeness versus anti-wokeness, MSNBC versus Fox. And when we are confronted with this reality, many of us are tempted to either retreat more deeply in the respective group identity or insist piously that such categories are irrelevant and should not matter. Unfortunately, neither of these approaches works, and instead of helplessly hoping for harmony that might be out of reach, we should focus on ensuring that inevitable disagreements, whenever possible, will lead to constructive outcome. And as I was preparing for this sermon this morning, I read an article from Time magazine, Us versus Them Thinking is Tearing America Apart. And the author, Ann Broad, tells us that the two most dangerous words in the human vocabulary are us and them. And we as a country received a dramatic reminder of this peril when our nation's political division erupted into a spectacle of lawlessness at the U.S. Capitol back on January 6, 2021. Braun reminds us that this attempted coup and overthrow of our government shows us that it's far too easy to think about us versus them, and the impulse to choose sides are inherent in our species. Psychologists point out that the desire to be safe, when we desire to be safe, we join groups in which we have affinities. We think of ourselves to be better or smarter than others. We judge others and we feel superior. We tend to emphasize the weakness of those on the other sides and minimize the weakness of those on our sides. You're either for us or against us, and there's no third option. And people who have different political ideology from us are viewed as misguided, agents of evil, or the devil incarnated. Public figures are harassed, threatened, and attacked, and their homes are being vandalized. Civil debates are supplanted by shouting matches, and each day our biases are enforced by the cable news or social media sources that we select and by the people who think like us, and we live in a world divided along tribal lines, and this leads to us versus them mentality. So tribalism has always been in the fabric of our country, but in recent years it's seen to be resurgent. And seismic demographic changes has contributed to the climate in which every group in America, minorities and whites, conservatives and progressive, working class and elites, feel under attack, pitted against each other, not for jobs and spoils, but for the right to define our nation's identity. And according to Amy Chow, a writer for The Atlantic, these factors that cause democracy to evolve into a zero-sum competition in which parties are seized by stoking fear and appealing to the ugliness of us versus them instincts. So you see, us versus them is ultimately rooted in fear. We tend to lean towards fear when we do not understand something or someone. And fear of the unknown can often lead to anger, and anger leads to hate. And from that place of hate, fear-based rhetoric pushes us further and further away. Fear does have a polarizing effect on people, and fear isn't interested in building bridges. Only fear leads to isolation. Fear separates us and keep us at bay. But I do have some good news to tell you this morning. Love casts out all the fear. Author Dan White tells us that a polarized society wants us to take sides and wants us to live in community where there's us versus them. However, love invites us into a paradox of complexity. And according to White, demonstrating love towards all people, especially those whom we disagree with, send a compelling message to others that if we have little to offer, if we only love those who love us. And for Unitarian Universalists, love is essential spiritual and moral values. Love is a common core that brings us together. And love is a religious practice that extends our compassion, solidarity, wholeness and care to every person. When love, not fear, is at the center of who we are, we look for ways to build bridges, not walls. With love, we seek to unite people to cultivate a self-giving culture. And with love, when we center love, fear will suffer defeat. Love also allows us not to focus on differences that leads to us versus them mentality, but love also will enable us to focus sharply on our shared values. With love, there's no room for us versus them. It's just room for all of us. Love will draw us to get even when we disagree and allow us to focus on how people really are and enable us to look past that external and to focus more on the core of our humanity. Love become a catalyst that will allow us to not to ignore our differences, but to look past them. And the polarization will disappear when love, not fear, is allowed. Now, the us versus them mentality narrows and restricts our ability to embrace each other and extend invitation to those who like us, those who look like us, those who act like us, and those who believe like us. And in this faith community, where we value inclusion, belonging, and diversity, there's no room for us versus them. We don't have a sign on our church door that said, only those like us are welcome. We don't tell folks when they enter our doors, if you're not like us, stay out. And decades of this us versus them mentality has caused extreme stress in our society. We are bombarded daily by alarming events in the global economy, endless wars that no one really wanted, famine and misery for millions, racial and legal injustices, and great income disparities. Levels of government and social actions are paralyzed. And unfortunately, there are only a few people willing to stretch out their hands to work together for a common good of all. And all of these things perpetuate us versus them mentality. But friends, it doesn't have to be that way. And as individuals, we can and need to change this collectively. And I believe there's no actual us versus them. This is a fiction created by faction throughout our history of this nation with a narrow self-interest to put roadblocks in functioning in our society. However, we all share some of the blame for continuing to perpetuate the us versus them mentality. And if we are to live in the beloved community that we aspire to be, people living and striving to maintain a nation where all people are created equal, we all have the same rights, and all can pursue life, liberty, and happiness, then us versus them must be a change for all for one and one for all. So now's the time to stop all this madness of us versus them. We all are flawed, imperfect human beings, mostly trying our best to build or today hold together the beloved community. The community is imperfect, and is flawed as each of us. But before we close our ears and hearts to those who may see the world differently than we do, a commitment to listening and some humility is first in order. And we must work to overcome the prejudices, the animosity rampant in our lives that dividing our country. And yes, we do have a right to quarrel each other, but we also have the responsibility to talk frankly and civilly with each other, to listen to desperate opinions, and we can agree without being disagreeable. So in the reading by David Rankin, he asked, can we live as one? At one within ourselves, at one with one another, at one with the people who we see as being different from ourselves. Can we live at one with all life? Friends, I believe that it's possible, but it begins with our hearts and souls and how we conduct our lives. It will not be easy, though, as the forces of division are all around us and indeed within us. Therefore, we must begin with our hearts and souls and how we live our own lives. Start by learning to reveal life as the most precious, and we are made in that one image. If we do so, we indeed will no longer need to create division within ourselves or one another in all of life. And the next time when we think about them, we must remember the many ways that we are alike as human beings. We must realize that we all have hope, dreams, and fears, and yearnings. So look for the similarities and not the differences. Have conversations to build understanding and listen to each other's stories, and you'll probably find that they're not that much different from yours. So we must begin today. We must start a conversation. If we don't do it, who will? May this be so.
It's now time for us to extinguish our chalice. And thank you for that, Reverend Logan. The reading is Loving and Responsible Action by Robert F. Kaufman. We have come together to share our deepest concerns, speaking and singing words of inspiration and hope. We have committed ourselves to do what we can to ease the burdens of those who suffer, to stand for decency and compassion. We have pledged to work for a more wholesome environment for us and for all the generations that will follow. But these are just words. The hymns we sing are just songs. All our reflections are just idle thoughts. When we convert them into loving and responsible action throughout the week, then and only then will this morning become what we want it to be, a time of worship.
Thank you, Kendra. I have a few announcements before I give the benediction. I invite all of you to join me here this afternoon at 4 p.m. for the ordination of our Assistant Minister, Lauren Lebwood. Ordination is a ritual-making covenant between a minister and Unitarian Universalists, and in our tradition, it is the congregation who ordain. We call one of our own, to rise up and leave. And it is a moment of time when the congregation would tell Lauren, yes, we see a minister in her. So please join me here at 4 o'clock this afternoon as we celebrate the sacred occasion and milestone of Lauren ministry. Where will you be on Tuesday? I'll tell you where I would be, in my us versus them community. But you know, Tuesday is election day, and our fifth principle, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregation, calls us to participate in the public process. And our faith calls us to ensure that our Unitarian Universalist values are represented in government and the voices of everyone are heard. So I encourage all of you to vote. Reach out to your families and friends and neighbors and take them to vote. And if you know someone who cannot get to the polls, please do what you can to help them get there. And if you've forgotten to register, don't worry, because this year Virginia has same-day registration, and you will be allowed to register and cast a provisional ballot at the same time. So after service, immediately at the doors to stage right, my left, sometimes I get that confused. But there's a table outside, and our youth will be there to help you find out if you're registered to vote or where your polling places are. So look for the table right outside the Great Hall. And friends, as President Obama used to say, don't boo, vote. Because there's a lot at stake, and your vote will make a difference. So see you Tuesday, if you live in Sandston. Please rise for our benediction. May you leave this time together change. May the promises you have made to yourself about who you want to be feel closer to the reality to who you are right now. May you share the feeling of transformation wherever you go, and may it spread into every word, deed, thoughts, and interaction until we all are changed, transformed, and transforming together, becoming our better selves. Now go in love, go in hope, go in peace. And let us sing our closing hymn. What is it?
131.
131.
It's, Love
Love will guide us.
Yeah, you're welcome. sing with the hymn book. The's going to be lyrics right on your screen. Let's start the song.